Welcome, Cobra Athletic fans, to another exciting episode of the Cobra Corner. My name is Will Hable, and I will be your host today alongside JT Colapetro and David Mack. We've got a great show for you guys today as we sit down with Kaylin Francavilla of Acrobatics and Tumbling and Rob Parland, head coach of Cobra University Wrestling. Sit back as we unpack the latest and greatest updates from Cobra University Athletics. Let's dive right into our weekly roundup, highlighting key results and performances across various sports at Cobra this past week. First off, we have golf. We finished 8th place out of 18 teams in the battle at Hilton Head. Women's golf jumped from 13th to 8th in the final day. Some comments from Coach Hackney. We really struggled in the win during Monday's round, but I really challenged our ladies to show some grit and not let a few poor shots or a bad hole keep them from playing well. They responded in a big way on Tuesday, improving by 17 shots, climbing 5 spots on the leaderboard. Going to the court, we got Cobra men's basketball getting a big sack win over opponent LR, 95-81. Andre Lavelle led the team in scoring with 24 points and 9 dishes. Tate Mulkey went perfect from 3, going 5 for 5 from behind the arc, finishing the game with 15 points. DeMar Anderson had a strong showing coming off the bench, tallying 20 points for the Cobras. Moving to the women's side of things, women's got a big conference dominant win over Tusculum, 80-62. Kamari Thompson led the team in boards with 19. Dominique Rodriguez led the Cobras with scoring with 16 points. Christina Knight also contributed a team high of 6 assists. That leads the Cobras improving to 15-10 on the season, sitting 7th in the conference at 9-9 with 2 key conference games remaining.
Moving over to softball. Well, softball went ahead and they swept Shaw last Wednesday, the 21st. Hers went ahead and scored a combined 44 runs. Some highlights from that game included a Cam Jackson homer, her 4th on the season, which actually puts her at 37th in the nation, tied for 37th in the nation, that is, in home runs. As well as her teammate, Kaylin Ray. She's also at 4 home runs and 37. It's tied for 37th in the nation with that. And then going to game 1 as well. Well, speaking of Kaylin Ray, she actually hit 2 home runs in the first game. And then Maya Cribbs also sent one over the fence. And for, again, a huge win for the Cobras over Shaw. And then in track and field, indoor championships to pretty much wrap up the regular season for the Cobras. Luke Baker, or the highlight of the weekend, setting a new indoor track and field school record in pole vault, beat his old record from last year by 0.01 meters. This time he went with a height of 3.51 meters, about 11 feet 6 inches. And then 2 other big performances. Donovan Jones placing 6th in the 400 overall. And then Yazir Persal Garcia placed 7th overall in the 200 meter dash. So a very productive weekend for the Cobras in the track and field.
So moving to Acro, Coker, the number 12 team currently in the country, is now 4-0. After scoring their highest team total of the year with a 265.71 to beat Lander. Some highlights from that would be they scored a 29.3 out of a possible 29.8 in the pyramid event. Their highest score was a 9.9 on the synchronized pyramid heat, and they also had a 9.75 out of a possible 9.9 on the open toss. Moving back outside to baseball, baseball moves to 5-1 in the SAC and 9-5 overall after taking 2 of the 3 games from the Anderson Trojans. Game 1 was Saturday, and they beat them 9-2. And then the next day, which was yesterday, they played 2 games, and then game 1 they beat them 10-2. Coker is currently top 10 in Division II in total stolen bases, and they had some pretty key performances in that Sunday game where they won 10-2. Cam Farrell was 3 for 5 from the plate and had 3 runs. And Cody Hanna was 2 for 4 with 2 runs. Jalen Mack, the catcher, was 3 for 5 with 2 runs himself. And then Jacob Yarberry was 2 for 4 from the plate and had 2 runs on the day.
This week, we would like to recognize an outstanding athlete who has stood out on the floor. This week, we are sitting down with Kaylin Francavilla, who put down a remarkable performance in acrobatics and tumbling. Kaylin earned Conference Carolinas Specialist of the Week and also an honorable mention by the NCATA for Specialist of the Week. She competed in all 3 pyramid heats for Coker last week. Her performance helped the Cobras to a 9.6 or higher in each of the pyramid heats, including a 9.95 in the open pyramid heat. Kaylin, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So just to do a quick background on yourself for everybody at home that doesn't know you too well.
I'm from Lone Tree, Colorado, and basically I did gymnastics for 14 years before I ended up coming to Coker for acrobatics and tumbling.
So going to you growing up, what first sparked your interest in gymnastics?
Well, my mom originally put me in gymnastics because I was starting to flip off of our couch, and she thought that it would be better for me to do it in a controlled environment.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Definitely.
So going acro and tumbling is a fairly new sport. So how did you find that sport and take your gymnastic skills to acrobatics and tumbling and put some context on the sport for people who don't know much about it?
So I originally got recruited for tumbling, but because of my ankle, it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be because acrobatics and tumbling is dead mat floor. But I ended up tumbling anyway, and then I ended up starting to learn about the pyramids and the acros that we get put into, and I just really started to love it, even if I was tumbling or I wasn't.
Fair enough. So coming from Colorado, I know that's pretty far for you. Coming to Hartsville, South Carolina, it's basically halfway across the country. So what was your transition moving across the country, and how did Coker help you with that?
It was pretty hard my freshman year because I was just away from my family, and the only way that I could contact them was by calling them. I couldn't just drive somewhere and see them like most of the people that live here. But Coker really helped me out because my teachers were very understanding, and I also met a lot of new people that helped me understand it's not the end of the world that you're away from your parents and you're still talking to them all the time. And it just really helped me out being around a great group of people.
So just going back to the program and all, I know you were here pretty much from the start of the program and seeing the team grow. How has Coach D'Angelo taken this program from almost nothing to now being nationally ranked?
I think Coach came in with a mindset, and I think we all followed it to not just about winning, but about growing as a team, and whether we win or lose, it's as a team. And I just think she really took it to the next level, and we all followed her, and we've been winning ever since.
Yeah, I guess so. So building off of that, starting on a really high note, 4-0, beating, I think it was Converse was number 14 or 15 in the country, and then Belmont Abbey was 10. How do you not get caught up on the fact that you guys are already having success? I guess to build and more to continue to have the success, how do you not dwell on the now, but also, build off that? I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, so basically you just can't think about how many teams you've won or lost against. It's always about the next meet and how we can do better and how we can make our program look better, and just overall try and beat ourselves instead of trying to beat other teams, and it's worked out so far.
Yeah, so I guess that Acro is one of those sports where it's very self-dependent. Like, you are competing against other teams, but your score really depends not on your performance against somebody else, but really your performance as a team. So that I find that interesting, coming from a background where I've never been a part of a sport like that, where, I'm up against somebody either on the other side of a net or, on the other side of a line, where my performance is based on how I dominate the person next to me and the person in front of me. So I guess that's an interesting point of view, that your score really just depends on how you guys do. So you can focus on that, and you can't really focus on how somebody else does.
Yeah, so when I came from gymnastics, it was very hard for me to understand the team concept of it, because everybody wants to be in things and everybody wants to have spots, but overall at the end of the day, it's just who does it better and who makes it look the best, to the point where we can win and we can score well.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a little bit of background in your sport, since my sister did a competition cheer growing up. So I know there's some athletes on your team that did that. So it's kind of not like a normal, like for me, I play lacrosse. So growing up, everybody played lacrosse. So my question to you is, how does people mix from a cheer background from a gymnastics background? How do you guys mesh all together?
Well, you can definitely tell on our team who did gymnastics and who did cheer just by the way they do certain things, like straddle jumps or back tucks. And so I never thought I would find myself on a team with some cheerleaders, because I really did not like them when I was doing gymnastics. But then you started to realize that some girls basically had different skills that could really help with acro, such as toe pitches, and it was just a completely different experience, but you realize that they did it really well, and that's just, yeah.
Now, for some people who don't know how the rankings kind of go and everything like that, and how quote unquote the postseason works and everything like that, it's all pretty much, obviously you're going to have the Conference Carolinas quarterfinals, but to get to nationals and everything like that, obviously you got to be one of the top 8 teams in the nation. Now, this isn't, top 10 or, top 25 for D2, D3, D1. By the end of the year, you could be facing a team such as Baylor or the University of Oregon and everything like that. So what is it kind of like, just knowing that, come the end of the year and everything like that, you guys could be seeing probably one of the D1 schools or something like that for the national ranking?
Honestly, that would be great for our team, because it's not even about scoring or winning, because Baylor is a huge team. But it would be about the experience instead. Sometimes I go online and I watch the Baylor meets and I'm like, wow. And so if I actually got to compete against that, I would just be astonished.
And the other thing too, I don't think we can pretty much overlook this and everything. Again, this is I believe, a very new program in a sense. And again, you've been here since the beginning, especially with Coach Bree's with Coach Bree's tenure and everything like that. And to be this close to be talking about a national title, does the pressure kind of amount almost with you guys over the years, or is it one of those things where it's just a business trip the next day and everything like that, and just seeing what we can do to get better and better each and every week?
Yeah, the pressure is definitely there, but I don't think it really gets to everyone. The last 2 years, we've gone to nationals for a specific pyramid, and I think we got there and we showed out and we showed what Coker could do, and nobody really thought that they were going to look at us and be we're going against Coker. But we also came to play and we wanted to win. We didn't, unfortunately, but I think it got some heads turning.
Absolutely. And again, the other thing too that I notice almost all the time with Coach Bree and with in a sense, with everybody here at Coker and everything like that, it's a family aspect and everything here. And a lot of people kind of like keep that family mentality together. What has Coach Bree kind of done to just keep that, in a sense, family, that family aspect all together with everybody and everything like that, and just keeping everybody as close as to one as possible?
We do some things like we do team bonding. We regularly have team bonding at least once a month. We do this thing before meets where we pick a name out of a bowl and we write like a letter to that person that you chose their name, and you give it to them, and it's just a few words of encouragement like, hey, you got this, all of this stuff. And I think that because we do that, it really helps me like calm down before a meet, because I do get nervous sometimes if I really want to beat like a team, but it helps me calm down, and I take that note and I put it on my mirror and I look at it while I'm getting ready for the meet, and it just soothes me and I'm all good.
So going back to your upbringing and everything, who did you like? Who is your role model? Like, did you ever like a gymnastics role model or like a coach or anything, that someone that pushed you to want to compete at the next level?
Yeah, so I had a coach, and her name was Amanda Webb, and she didn't like me very much if you ask her, but she always pushed me to be my best. And when she introduced acrobatics and tumbling to me, because I told her that I wanted to go somewhere and do a sport, but I didn't want to do gymnastics anymore, she really pushed me to like reach out to all of these schools that just added acrobatics to their school, and she pushed me to do my best and just see what I could do, and help me got recruited and all of those things.
So just going back to the Coker and your team aspect, what's your most memorable performance here at Coker, or when you back in your early days, I should say?
I think the most memorable performance would be last year when we went up against Belmont Abbey, and we had never beat them before because they're really good. And we went up against Belmont, and the final scores came out, and this would determine if we went up against Limestone for second in conference or first in conference. And the scores went up, and we were all looking around because nobody can do math in their head. And they announced the final scores, and everybody just like screaming, hugging, dropped to the floor, crying. Like, it really proved that all of our hard work had actually paid off, and we did so good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So just what are your plans for after Coker?
I just think I'm going to move back to Colorado, and I think because of my background in sports, I'm going to try and be an athletic director.
Sweet. All right, well, thank you for coming on to the show. A pleasure to have you as always, and good luck this rest of the season.
Thank you.
In this week's Coach's Corner segment, we have a special guest today, Coach Rob Parland, the head coach of Coker University wrestling team. Rob is in his second year as a head coach of the Cobras and has led his team to a 9-5 record this season. Rob, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Nice to be here.
So just give the viewers a quick intro and background about yourself and where you're from.
Originally from Brunswick, Georgia, but tell everybody Jacksonville, Florida for the most part. But I've been at Coker for about 10 years. I was a part of the first team back in 2013. Seen this program for years, feels like, but everybody still thinks I'm a student, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I've seen this program just from the bottom to where we are now, and just kind of looking to build with it.
So just going back to you initially wrestling at Coker, what originally brought you here?
The coach who recruited me lived like 20 minutes away from me in Jacksonville, so it kind of worked out. He knew my coach, and I knew his family. It kind of worked out, so
cool.
Small world.
And one of the big things is obviously for a lot of coaches and everything like that, they don't necessarily come back to like their alma maters and everything like that. So what is it kind of like coaching a team that you were once a part of?
It's surreal in a different way, if that makes sense. I'm trying to essentially give the guys what I wasn't able to, I guess, receive when I was an athlete here. So experiences, just overall understanding, and trying to put all that together to create a team, a different culture that's different from, I guess, other programs in the country.
And a lot of guys on the team, and the one thing that I always see, because I got the privilege to obviously work with you guys and everything like that this year and be down on the floor and everything and then down around the mat. The one thing I got to see was pretty much every single match I went to, there was at least, I want to say like a handful of wrestlers in that student section kind of just cheering on their guys and everything like that, bringing that family mentality and everything like that. What is it kind of like just seeing like sort of like the brotherhood almost, if you will, or the family aspect come together as a team as a whole?
These guys are really beating up on each other day in, day out, so they know the capabilities of what each person can do. So them celebrating for the most part is them seeing it, trying to manifest on a on a mat at any given moment. So they're cheering, they're going crazy because they see it happening at practice all the time. So they're like, okay, they can do that in a real match. So,
and the other thing too with it is, and going back to that and everything like that, another thing to kind of mention is the fact of the matter that each of these guys know and everything like that, and they learn off each other. And sometimes, as a coach, that's one of the biggest things that you can see and everything like that is your athletes kind of just learning from each other. What is it kind of like just seeing that some of these younger guys and everything like that, some of these freshmen coming in, they'll learn from guys such as like Omar, or Spico, or Cooper, some of the other seniors or guys who have been on this team and everything like that, just making that connection and showing that willingness to learn.
We have a good group of older guys who ultimately make my job a lot easier because, they're leading by example for the most part. I mean, like you said, Omar, Spico, Hamilton, they've been here 4 or 5 years. I even had a chance to recruit most of these guys back when I was assistant. So seeing that development over the years of being here and kind of being the head coach now, a lot of times they take over and let them coach the guys because it's, a lot easier for them to relate in some cases as well.
Absolutely. And again, I want to go back to a couple of individual accomplishments. Obviously, Omar, pretty much throughout the season and was ranked 20 around most of the time. And a lot of the guys got a lot of individual accomplishments as well as a couple of team accomplishments as well. What is it kind of like just getting those accomplishments through and kind of just like, having this program kind of just coming back up and everything like that and just seeing all the success, not only from individuals, but also as teams for the team as a whole?
I try to do my best to make sure we highlight the small things as well as the big things. I mean, the guys know what the ultimate goal is at the end of the day, but when we started off 7-0 for a while, the guys took that and kind of ran with it. I'm like, it's not something that we're going to look past. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, no, you've been here before. No, like, these guys want to see the accomplishments they're having from this point. So Omar being 20th is, nothing to shy away from for the most part, but he's always looking to be better, always looking to work harder than pretty much everybody in the world, what feels like. And it's kind of something the guys want to attack, and they're seeing that and seeing that example, and they're trying to, build off of that. So,
absolutely. And one of the big highlights of the season that everybody kind of highlights, I know me and a couple of the wrestling guys were highlighting it throughout the season, was one of the matches. It was one of the last home matches we had. It was against Limestone. First time in 10 years, team had beaten Limestone and everything like that. What was sort of like that feeling and everything like that for the guys finally getting over that hump of beating Limestone for the first time since you were actually on the team?
It's something we talked about briefly. I mean, every now and again in our practice, was like, well, the last time we beat them, it was my sophomore year, and it was like 39-0. But I was like, we had the team. I think this team actually kind of beats my team back in the day for the most part. But making sure the guys saw the opportunity and took it, we knew that we needed to go into the last match, and obviously Hamilton did what we had to do from that point. But it was just overall great team experience, a great vibe, and we look to kind of build on that, especially in the future. Should not be listening to them again.
So just jumping back to your love for wrestling as a whole, you were once a wrestler yourself, so what made you want to become a wrestling coach?
It was actually kind of a spur of the moment thing. I was in my senior year here, and I genuinely had no idea what I was doing and what was the next step. And the former coach, who was my teammate at the time, Derek Nelson, kind of reached out to me, and I'm like, okay, this is the next step. And then everything kind of worked out a little bit, and next thing you know, 5 years later, here I am.
So what's your most memorable moment of not only your coaching career, but your collegiate career as well?
College-wise, I think it was probably tearing my ACL, but right before that match, I actually beat the number 4 guy in the country, which was pretty big at the time. We beat Lake Erie. It was like 18-16, which we weren't on paper supposed to beat them, but it worked out. And then 20 minutes later, tore my ACL. So remember that. Coaching wise, it's probably just what we do on a day-to-day basis. I remember almost every single day of practice to some degree, like a major point that I could take away from it, whether it's specifically with one person or just the team in general. Just seeing the guys develop is kind of what brought me to coaching. And I think that overall growth and development over years and years is kind of built relationships, which is different because it's not just, hey, how good is your single leg, your double leg? It's like, hey, how's life outside of this? And how's school? How's campus? And that kind of relationship is kind of something I specifically always remember.
So what are your goals for the future of Cobra Wrestling as a program?
I want to stick around for as long as possible, and I want to see how can we always get better year by year, not just kind of, okay, this is just getting guys to nationals. We're trying to like place in national. We're trying to get guys on the podium for the most part. It's not just winning dual meets. I mean, yeah, it's great, but we think overall we want to get multiple guys in the national tournament. We want to get multiple guys because it's just getting there for the most part. We get there, anything can happen. And I think we have the team now this year that can actually make a lot of noise. And I think in the future, just kind of build on that and build on that we can compete with these national teams and win.
So I guess, what is your biggest challenge in the recruiting aspect of things? Because you're the first coach that we've had on here. So I've always been interested in the recruiting part of college athletics. So how do you approach what's your recruiting philosophy? How do you go in and target an athlete that you may want to bring to Coker?
I look for that passion. This is a sport that we put our bodies on the line more than, I guess you would say, another team sport. That makes sense. I'm looking for the guy who has that drive to not only win for themselves, but win for guys that surround them. It's easy to identify wrestling as, okay, it's just individual based, but it's much more. So I'm looking for guys that, they're close, relatively close. I mean, not that I can go, recruit a guy from California, but it's a little bit harder. While at the same time, okay, what's their financial situation? And then from that point, I kind of see, okay, if I can get them on campus, how's their interest? And once they're here, 9 times out of 10, they end up coming here for the most part because I think I'm a pretty good recruiter. And then from there, and once they're here, they kind of fall in love with the campus the same way I did when I was here.
Yeah, that's and so coming from somebody, so I grew up and then played high school tennis, played tennis in college as well. So it's very similar in that aspect where you have individuals competing for a total team score. So in singles, you're competing against the guy from the other school on the other side of the net from you, and then from wrestling, obviously, it's you're competing on the mat against the other school and their school's individual wrestler. So I guess, how do you encourage the athletes on your team to have also compete, but still have that team aspect? Because I feel like that a sport that's individual, such as wrestling or tennis, can kind of get away from the team aspect.
Doing it more so for the team has always been something I've been pushing for all year. Back when I was here, we had a saying, or the Coke Boys, or whatever you want to call it, and I kind of make sure I touch on that more often, probably once, maybe twice a week, and the guys seeing it more so than just that individual aspect of it. And then at the end of the day, it's also, like I told the guys this past week, it's not whether you're the 10 guys wrestling at regionals or not. If your partner makes it in nationals, you make it in nationals. If he doesn't make it in nationals, you don't make it in nationals. It's much more than just the individual part about it. But then at the same time, they're also fighting against themselves because I think yourself is your biggest enemy in terms of how wrestling works out, because it's all mental.
Yeah, so touching on the mental part of it, like you said, it's a mentally tough sport. So what's your coaching philosophy on not only the physical side, but the mental side?
No moment's too big. More often than not, we get in situations and we overthink, whether it's wrestling, whether it's football, whether it's class or life, and we get lost in the situation. And I try to make sure I keep everything down to earth. And I'm just talking, just having conversations to make sure that it's not a big situation. Same concept when it's, you're buying a car. It's like, okay, can I afford this? Can I not afford it? Same concept with a house. I try to make sure everything stays right in front of you rather than, okay, is it impossible? I don't think anything in this world is impossible as long as we have the confidence, have the the understanding of the situation, and but the right to attack it.
And I guess one of the other things too with that mentality and everything like that, you kind of see it with a lot of the guys, whether it's the guys in the bleachers, whether it's the guys, again, the 10 guys on the mat and everything like that. You gotta imagine just getting that mental capacity and just keeping guys like not only just calm in general, but just getting that mentality. Because I can speak from experience. It's no matter what match I would have went into or when I was competing in track, no matter what meet I would go into, my mind was racing always about 1,000 miles an hour and everything like that. But I always had somebody there to like just be like, hey, relax, calm down and everything, and just kind of like calming these guys down and just making sure like, hey, one match at a time, we got this and everything. I guess that's kind of like one of the big things as a coach that's kind of big to keep track of and everything, making sure that these guys are like good to go and they're like set and good mentally as well, I would assume.
It's all, no moment's too big. We see it and it's like, oh, we're looking ahead, we're not looking ahead, or we're looking too far in the future, or we're not looking too far in the future. Like, hey, attack what's right in front of you and take it day by day, one match at a time. Well, overall, it gets stressful to, can't control what you can't control. So make sure the guys understand that and they see what's, okay, I can control my training, I can control my habits, I can control what I'm doing in and outside the room, I can control what I'm eating. And they kind of, jumble that all up into our season.
And I guess kind of like, because there have been a couple times that you and me have been able to talk about matches ahead and everything like that. And it's been one of those things of just being that, in a sense, that quiet calm and everything like that has kind of been, I almost want to say, been the mentality and everything. Because obviously, the one day we were talking about the limestone match and it was like, just kind of just going to let it happen and everything like that. And it's one of those things where that's sometimes probably one of the best mindsets to have in any sport for that matter, because again, and it just goes back to no moment's too big.
Definitely. It's one of the things I actually push on the guys as well. I mean, we're listening to like, R&B before a match to keep the calm, like nature about everything. It's like, keeping it simple, nothing to really overstress about. I mean, I feel like once we get in those mindsets and we, again, go into overthinking and trying to think the moment's too big, that's when we make mistakes. And one mistake could be the difference between winning the match and losing the match, going to nationals, not going to nationals. So
just to touch on like the little more personal side of things outside of wrestling. So what do you do? What are your hobbies, or what do you do outside the sport to keep you mentally in check?
I work out probably 5 to 6 times a week, and I usually do that before practice or after practice. Really depends. And the guys take note of that. It's just one of the things that keeps me sane. Big on anime and video games for the most part. And my wife or fiance keeps me humble because she's like, oh,
Yeah.
Wife is right, always right. But that being said, it keeps my job a lot easier, and I don't have to worry about keeping work or trying to have that mix between work and personal life. It's just like, okay, part of my work is my personal life, and it makes it a little bit fun. But working out, watching most animes that kind of come out on a regular basis, and playing Call of Duty on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all we got for you. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you coming on, and we got best of luck. For you guys done it with the season? You're done.
We have regionals this weekend. We leave Friday at like noon. Seating meetings at 6, I believe, for practice right after the meeting, and Saturday we go at it, and that decides who goes to nationals or not.
All right, well, best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on again.
Man,
Appreciate you.
I'm not doing this all the time.
All right, so looking into next week for Cobra Athletics, we have a full slate of games and events for you going on. Starting off with men's and women's golf, the men are at the Spring Bulldog Clash at the Caledonia Golf and Fish Club in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, while the women are at the Low Tide Intercollegiate at Dunes West Golf Club in Charleston, South Carolina.
Now moving to baseball. This week the Cobras welcome number 9 UNC Pembroke to the Snake Farm on Tuesday, the 27th in the midweek non-conference still under the lights with first pitch at 6 p.m. Then this weekend they head on the road to take on SAC opponent Wingate in a 3-game series on Friday and Saturday, March 1st and 2nd. The Cobras look to add in the win column in conference play after sweeping Emory and Henry last week and winning the 3-game series against Anderson 2-1 to open up SAC play. Now moving to the field with lacrosse. Men's lacrosse welcomes Young Harris to town on March 1st under the lights at 7 p.m. The Cobras are looking to tally one in the win column after coming off a tough road stretch.
Yeah.
So moving to men's and women's tennis, the men and women are both home versus Catawba to open conference play this week on Tuesday. Saturday, they will head to Wingate, where both teams will again play. The men for Wingate are currently number 14 in Division II, and the women are number 10 in Division II. And then on Sunday, they'll head down to Hilton Head for Spring Fest to start their slate of games there.
Yeah, moving back outside to the field and everything like that. Softball going to go ahead and be in action 3 times this week. Actually going to be 1 away and then 2 at home over at Sailor B. Stokes Field. The away game is going to happen on the 27th, which is tomorrow. They're going to be traveling to Belmont Abbey, a fellow Conference Carolina rival that the Cokers usually face. And then Coach Jones going to have a little bit of a reprieve. Her alma mater going to be coming into town. Georgian Court going to come to town on Thursday for a 2-game set. And then Cobras go ahead, wrap up the action on Sunday against Converse. All those games are going to go ahead. They're going to be starting at 1 o'clock with the exception actually of Thursday. Georgian Court's actually going to be at noon on Thursday. But second game will be shortly after. About usually, for those wondering when the second game usually happens, about half hour right after. And then speaking of doubleheaders, men's and women's basketball both have 2 games left, and they are big games. And when I say big games, y'all need to get out there because it's 2 home games left in the regular season. Limestone on Wednesday, and it is a whiteout. Yes, a whiteout. Oh, Coach Mel is calling for one, and she needs a big one in a big way. Again, huge implications for playoffs coming into town. And then Newberry on Saturday, that's going to go ahead. That's going to be basketball senior night. So again, both those teams in the final stretch this week. And then, as Coach Rob had alluded to earlier, Coker Wrestling going to go ahead being their super regional tournament this weekend. That's going to start on Saturday. So again, huge week of action for you here, and again highlighted by the 2 remaining home games for Coker basketball, because again, playoffs are right around the corner, and this is going to be making a big difference. So make sure you get out there and support your Cobras in any sport for that matter.
And there you have it, another episode of the Cobra Corner. We hope you enjoyed this show, and we can't wait to see you supporting Coker Athletics in the stands or online. Remember, your passion and support makes all the difference for our team, so keep cheering, be loud, and let's go Cobras. See y'all next week.